Hi there, I'm Mark from Valor XL. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I'd like to talk to you about strategic partnerships in the nonprofit realm, and I'll be really specific and say as they pertain to small nonprofits. And I say that because if you're the owner of a small nonprofit, you know that you face a very unique set of challenges. And if you're trying to really get your wheels rolling, there are so many logistical obstacles in your path it can sometimes be enough to make you throw your hands up and say, what's the use? If that describes you, then hopefully today you can come away from what we talk about with some inspiration and some real motivation to develop strategic partnerships that can help your organization to go much further than it ever could by itself. Now, at their core, strategic partnerships are just that. They're a relationship between two different organizations that really is intended to be mutually beneficial. It's completely different than what you would encounter in a business scenario. We're not talking about a merger. We're not talking about a competitor buying somebody else out. We're talking about a real partnership. It's where two uniquely, distinctly separate entities are retaining their own identity, but they are partnering. They're working together toward a common goal. And that's where the idea of the strategic partnership really becomes exciting. Because if you can find a healthy relationship like that to enter into, you can suddenly open up so many possibilities that simply weren't there before. And it really does come down to fulfilling whatever your underlying mission is. Maybe there's so much you want to be able to do, but it's just not practical with where you are right now in terms of your funding or the size of the staff that you have. But if you can partner with somebody else, that opens up so many new possibilities for you. So in just a moment, I'd like to share 4 things with you to consider when you look at the whole idea of starting a strategic partnership relationship with another organization. But I also want to put this cautionary note out there. It's critically important that you really look very carefully before you align yourself with another organization. It's not enough to simply take the first one that raises their hands and says, yeah, we'll partner with you. That doesn't really mean anything, and you could be getting into a world of hurt. You have to look very carefully at what that organization is about. It's not enough to simply see that they're doing similar things that you are, providing comparable services, or maybe even serving the same client demographic. That's fine, but you need to look at a much deeper level. What are the core values of that organization, and what are their long-term goals? There will be a commonality, but there may also be things behind the scenes that take a little bit more investigation for you to fully understand. It's so important that you get that dealt with up front, because a strategic partnership, for all of its benefits, still does, from both parties, require an investment of time and energy and resources and finances. And so, to make it work and to make it truly mutually beneficial, each side needs to be sure of who the other is. So I can't caution you strongly enough. Get that taken care of up front. Make sure it truly is a like-minded organization. If you do, you'll be on a good platform for success. So here are 4 things that I'd like to talk about that you should keep in mind if you pursue developing a strategic partnership. Number 1, a memorandum of understanding. Sometimes you'll hear this referred to as an MOU. A memorandum of understanding is your best friend when you're starting a strategic partnership, because if you don't have one, you're already getting off on the wrong foot. The worst thing you can do is try to develop a relationship without something in writing. You can't just go with something that was decided verbally. You may have had a stellar meeting with the other organization, but sometimes in meetings, people hear things that they want to hear, or they may perceive something a certain way that isn't necessarily how it was intended. That's why a memorandum of understanding is so crucial, because it's a written document. It is the one voice of truth for both organizations to look back to. It clearly defines what each organization is expecting of the other. It describes what each will be participating in, and it lays a groundwork that eliminates all of the questions that would be lurking up front. There will be new things that come along as you get further into the relationship, but at least at the outset, eliminate all of the guesswork that you can. A little bit later on, you may find yourself in a situation where you're even entering into some sort of a legally binding contract. This is not that, but it still is a very critical step. Don't overlook it. Get this in place, and you'll be on a good trajectory for everything else that follows. Number 2, operational points of contact. Now, initially, when you're discussing a partnership, that's something that's probably going to happen at the executive level. It might be CEO to CEO, executive director to executive director. It could be a board of directors talking to another board. But once the partnership has been formalized, it's crucial that you start moving away from that senior level of leadership when it comes to direct point of contact for day-to-day operations. Obviously, the senior leadership still needs to be kept apprised of everything that's developing, but they can't be the primary contact point for something happening down in the weeds. When it really gets down to whatever the services are that both of the organizations are providing, that's where the points of contact need to reside. And you can't have many points of contact in both organizations. I think it's best to have one primary point of contact and maybe a couple of alternates. The worst thing that you can do is to copy 11 people on an email. If you can keep it down to 1 or 2 at the most key points of contact, it will make the chain of communication run much more smoothly, and you can ensure that things are being dealt with and responded to in a timely manner. Number 3, shared community visibility. Now, this is something that you probably understand on a basic level when you get into a strategic partnership. But the reality is you will now be thought of in terms of the other organization. If you promote yourselves as working partners, when people see your organization, they'll begin to think of the other and vice versa. And that really is a wonderful byproduct of this because it's a form of organic marketing, because your spheres of influence are probably a little bit different. But now you're kind of combining your efforts in a way that there will be overlap. People that were only aware of you will now be aware of them and vice versa. And what's great there is you do open up to a much larger sphere of potential clients. A lot of times in a strategic partnership, what you'll see is where the one organization is providing A, B, and C, and the other is providing X, Y, and Z. And clients will appreciate that because you are giving them added value. You may have only been able to meet part of what their needs are, but partnering with the other organization means that between the two of you, you've got all the bases covered. That's a tremendous way that you can provide a lasting impact on your clients, and that also will be good marketing because the best thing you can hope for is positive word of mouth from the people that you've served. And number 4, joint grant opportunities. This is really an exciting one. There may be grants that you weren't specifically eligible for as your own organization, but by partnering with somebody else, you suddenly now have access to what they were writing grants for. It really does give you a much wider playing field, and you can find funding that you never would have been able to touch otherwise. This is also an opportunity for you to sort of co-brand with the organization that you're in partnership with. You may even find it prudent to develop new programs that are co-branded, that are a specific joint venture between your organization and your partner. That's something that can open up the door for grants as well, because you can introduce a new program that you want to launch, and you're bringing all of the individual expertise and credibility of each organization into that discussion. Well, as you can see, a strategic partnership can be an incredible tool for your nonprofit. It's definitely not something that you want to enter into casually, but if you do your due diligence and you find a good fit, it can be incredibly beneficial for you and your partner. Utilize it to the fullest. You'll open up doors for each other and step into territory that you never could have otherwise. If this episode was beneficial for you, would you please give us a like? And in the comments below, let me know, have you ever been in a strategic partnership? Or do you have specific questions about steps you should take to try to cultivate that kind of relationship? I'd also like to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Our content is specifically geared toward helping small businesses and nonprofits to truly thrive. Thanks again for joining me today. I invite you to come back next time for another installment of Valor Excel. And until then, remember this, at Valor Excel, we're committed to helping you do smart work. Thanks again. I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.